Have you ever stopped to think that the way you love today may have begun long before your first kiss, your first relationship, or even your first heartbreak? Maybe the way you trust or distrust, open up or shut down, get close or pull away, was written during your very first years of life. This idea may sound frightening, but it's also liberating. And that's exactly what a psychologist named Mary Ainsworth revealed to the world with a study so simple, yet so profound, that even today it continues to change lives. Mary Ainsworth was born in 1913 in the United States, and from very early on she was fascinated by human relationships. Inspired by the work of John Bowlby, another giant in psychology, she set out to investigate a fundamental question: what makes a human bond secure, and what happens when that bond fails? For Mary, it wasn't just about observing children. She believed that our very first attachments were the foundation of every person's emotional life. And if those foundations were fragile, cracked, or broken, the entire structure of life could become unstable. Imagine for a moment a baby completely dependent on their mother or caregiver, unable to survive alone. The baby cries not to manipulate but because they need to. They need food, warmth, comfort, and affection. Now, think with me. How does that baby feel when their needs are met with love, presence, and sensitivity? They learn little by little that the world is a safe place, that love is available, that asking is not dangerous. But what happens when those cries are ignored? When the mother doesn't respond, or responds inconsistently? The baby also learns. They learn that the world can be cold, distant, that asking may lead to rejection, that trusting may be risky. These early lessons, so subtle and yet so powerful, are written inside us. Not in words, because at that age we don't have language yet, but in sensations, in emotional imprints that stay with us for life. Mary Ainsworth wanted to prove that these early patterns, the way a child is comforted or not comforted in their first years of life, shape how that person will trust, love, and connect for the rest of their journey. And to uncover this truth, she created an experiment that would become one of the most famous in the history of psychology. A seemingly simple scenario: a room, a few toys, a mother, her baby, and a series of carefully designed separations and reunions. This study would become known as the strange situation. But before I share the details of this experiment, I want you to reflect on something. If today you feel afraid of abandonment, or if you struggle to trust people, could that have its roots way back in your very first years of life? And what if you could discover that right now through science? At first glance, the strange situation looked like nothing more than a child play session. A cozy room, a carpet, some colorful toys scattered on the floor, a mother sitting quietly in a chair, and her baby exploring the new environment. But hidden behind one-way mirrors and recording devices, something extraordinary was about to unfold. Mary Ainsworth designed the strange situation in the 1970s to test what she believed to be at the very heart of human development: the attachment bond. And she wanted to see it in action, to watch how babies responded not just to play, but to stress, to separation, and most importantly to reunion. The sequence was carefully structured into 8 short episodes, each lasting just a few minutes. At the start, the mother and baby entered the room together. The baby was encouraged to explore the toys while the mother remained present, a source of comfort if needed. Soon, a stranger entered the room, a woman unfamiliar to the child. The mother quietly stepped away, leaving the baby alone with this new figure. For some babies, this was the first real test. Would they cry? Would they approach the stranger? Would they freeze in confusion? Then came the most critical moment: the reunion. The mother re-entered the room. For Ainsworth, this was the golden key. The way the baby reacted to the return of the mother revealed far more than the initial separation. Did the child rush into her arms, calming quickly? Did they cling desperately, unable to settle even after comfort was given? Or did they avoid her altogether, as if rejecting the very person they longed for? Ainsworth observed hundreds of babies in these situations, meticulously recording every glance, every tear, every attempt to reconnect. And soon, clear patterns emerged. Patterns that would change the way psychologists, parents, and even society itself understood the power of love and trust. But perhaps the most striking thing about the strange situation was its simplicity. This wasn't a laboratory filled with machines or complex datasets. It was just a mother, a child, and a carefully timed dance of presence and absence. And yet, in that dance, the deep architecture of human attachment was laid bare. Think about your own life for a moment. Imagine being a child again, alone in a room. Your heart races. You don't know where your mother is. Then the door opens and she returns. How do you feel? Do you rush to her with relief, confident that she's your safe place? Or do you hesitate, unsure if you can really rely on her? Maybe you even turn away, pretending you don't care, while inside you're longing for her touch. This is the genius of Mary Ainsworth's work. She showed us that our earliest bonds are not just emotional. They are patterns that echo through time, shaping the way we handle intimacy, independence, and even heartbreak. And now comes the next step. Understanding what Ainsworth discovered in those patterns, and how they define not only childhood but also the way we love as adults. After carefully observing hundreds of children in the strange situation, Mary Ainsworth noticed patterns. Not every baby reacted the same way to separation and reunion. Some were calm, some anxious, some distant. And from these differences, she identified what would become known as the attachment styles, a framework that helps us understand how humans connect and trust throughout life. The first and most secure pattern was the secure attachment. These babies might cry when their mother left, but the moment she returned, they would seek comfort, calm down, and then return to exploring the toys. They had learned, even as infants, that their caregiver was reliable, available, and trustworthy. This security formed the foundation for self-confidence, empathy, and healthy relationships later in life. The second pattern was called anxious ambivalent attachment. These children displayed intense distress when their mother left. And when she returned, they often could not be soothed easily, clinging desperately or showing anger. This style often emerges when a caregiver is inconsistent, sometimes responsive, sometimes distant. Children with this pattern grow up highly attuned to relationships, sometimes anxious about being abandoned, constantly seeking reassurance. The third was avoidant attachment. Babies in this category seemed indifferent when their mother left and avoided her when she returned. But this apparent independence was not true emotional self-sufficiency. Instead, it reflected a learned strategy. Showing vulnerability had not been consistently rewarded, so these children suppressed their emotional needs. As adults, they may struggle with intimacy, avoiding closeness to protect themselves from rejection. Finally, a fourth pattern identified later is disorganized attachment. These children displayed contradictory behaviors, approaching and withdrawing, freezing or seeming confused when the caregiver returned. This style often develops in the context of trauma, abuse, or frightening caregiving. Its long-term impact can be profound, influencing emotional regulation and trust in relationships. What is remarkable is how predictive these early patterns are. Decades of research show that attachment styles in infancy often echo through adulthood. Securely attached children tend to form trusting, stable relationships. Anxiously attached individuals may experience cycles of dependency and fear. Avoidantly attached adults may struggle to let others in. And disorganized attachment can manifest as deep internal conflict, difficulty regulating emotions, or chaotic relationships. Imagine this. Your patterns of intimacy, trust, and love may have roots in how a baby felt when a parent left a room, and how that same parent returned. The first bonds create a subtle blueprint that the heart and mind carry for life. Mary Ainsworth's genius was not just in observing behavior. It was in decoding emotion, trust, and the silent language of attachment. She gave us a lens to see why people struggle with relationships, why some people fear intimacy, and why some seem naturally secure and resilient. And here's the hopeful truth. While these early patterns are powerful, they are not destiny. Awareness, therapy, and healthy relationships can help reshape attachment styles. Understanding your attachment is the first step toward transforming the way you love, trust, and connect. In the next part, we'll explore how these attachment styles influence adult relationships, from romance to friendship, and how recognizing them can change the way we live and love. By now, you might be wondering, if these attachment patterns are formed in infancy, what does that mean for the rest of our lives? How can a baby's response to a brief separation influence the way we navigate love, friendship, and trust decades later? The truth is simple, yet profound. Our early bonds create a blueprint for relationships. Secure attachment, formed through consistent care and responsiveness, teaches us that closeness is safe. These individuals grow up believing they are worthy of love, that others can be trusted, and that emotional support is available when needed. In adulthood, they often form relationships that are stable, balanced, and deeply satisfying. Anxiously attached individuals, on the other hand, carry a deep awareness of uncertainty in relationships. They may crave closeness but also fear abandonment, often reading hidden threats or rejection in their partner's words or actions. In friendships and romantic partnerships, this can lead to cycles of reassurance seeking, jealousy, or emotional intensity. Avoidant attachment, developed through repeated experiences of unresponsiveness or rejection, manifests differently. Adults with this style may prioritize independence, emotional self-reliance, and distance. While this may appear as strength or resilience, it often masks a fear of intimacy or vulnerability. These individuals may struggle to ask for help, share their feelings, or fully connect with others. Disorganized attachment is more complex. Rooted in experiences of fear, trauma, or inconsistency, it can create a paradoxical approach avoidance dynamic. Adults may simultaneously crave closeness and push others away. Relationships may feel chaotic, and emotional regulation can be challenging. Yet even here, awareness and support can transform patterns over time. What makes this so fascinating and empowering is that understanding your attachment style is like finding the instruction manual for your heart. Once you see the blueprint, you can begin to change it. Therapy, healthy relationships, mindfulness, and self-reflection all offer tools to rebuild trust, establish secure connections, and heal old wounds. Consider the story of Emily, a woman in her 30s. As a child, she experienced inconsistent care, moments of warmth mixed with neglect. She developed an anxious attachment style. In her adult relationships, she found herself caught in cycles of fear and dependency. But after learning about attachment theory and recognizing her patterns, Emily began therapy and started practicing self-soothing techniques and open communication. Gradually, she built relationships based on trust rather than fear, a profound transformation guided by understanding the invisible threads of her earliest bonds. Mary Ainsworth's work reminds us that our childhood experiences are not a verdict. They are a map. They show where patterns began, what shaped us, and, most importantly, where we have the power to create change. The strange situation may have started with a simple room, a few toys, and hundreds of infants, but its lessons resonate through a lifetime, in every embrace, every conflict, every act of love. In the next part, we'll explore practical ways to use this knowledge. How understanding attachment can help us improve relationships, parent with awareness, and cultivate emotional resilience, no matter our age. Now that we've explored the strange situation, the 4 attachment styles, and how these patterns echo through adulthood, it's time to ask a critical question. How can we use this knowledge to change our lives, improve our relationships, and heal old wounds? The first step is awareness. Understanding your attachment style, whether secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, is like turning on a light in a previously dark room. Suddenly, behaviors that felt mysterious or automatic become clear. Why do you cling in relationships? Why do you withdraw when things get close? Why does fear of abandonment surface at the worst possible moments? Awareness is the gateway to change. Next comes reflection and self-compassion. It's important to recognize that attachment patterns are not personal failures. They are adaptive strategies developed in early life, often the best tools available to a child navigating unpredictable care. By reframing these patterns as survival mechanisms rather than flaws, we can approach ourselves with empathy instead of guilt. Then, there is action, the practical work of reshaping attachment. Therapy is one of the most powerful tools. particularly modalities that focus on relationships and attachment, like emotionally focused therapy or attachment-based psychotherapy. In therapy, people can experience corrective emotional experiences. Safe, consistent, and responsive interactions that gradually rewrite old patterns. Even outside formal therapy, we can practice creating secure connections. This might mean openly communicating needs in relationships, establishing healthy boundaries, or nurturing consistent, reliable bonds with friends and loved ones. For parents or caregivers, understanding attachment can transform the way they relate to their children, breaking cycles of insecure attachment across generations. Consider Michael, a man in his 40s with an avoidant attachment style. He often kept emotional distance in relationships, fearing rejection. By learning about attachment theory, he began to consciously share his feelings with trusted friends and partner. At first, it felt uncomfortable, but over time he discovered intimacy was not a threat. It became a source of strength, trust, and fulfillment he hadn't experienced before. Mary Ainsworth's work reminds us of a profound truth. Our capacity to love, trust, and connect is lifelong. The bonds we formed as infants set the stage, but they do not define the finale. With understanding, effort, and compassionate practice, we can create secure attachments in the present, regardless of our past. So, as you reflect on your own life, ask yourself, how do I approach closeness and trust? Where do old patterns surface? And how can I begin to build secure, lasting connections with myself, with others, and with the world? If you found this video insightful, I encourage you to comment below. Share your thoughts, your experiences, or even your questions about attachment. And let us know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your stories from all over the world. Mary Ainsworth's experiment may have started in a small room decades ago, but its lessons are timeless. The way we were loved, the way we learned to trust, and the way we now choose to connect. All of it matters. And the power to transform our relationships, our hearts, and our lives is always within reach.